Welcome back to Inspiring Possibilities, the courage to jump in. I'm your host, Michelle Cameron Coulter, Olympic gold medalist, TEDx speaker, and most importantly, mom of four amazing now young adults. This show is for high achievers who are ready to stop living like life is performance review and to start living with more courage, connection, and possibility. Today's conversation is so powerful. I'm joined by Jennifer Cahill, an evolutionary leader, entrepreneur, speaker, and host of Regarding Consciousness and Super Connection podcast. Jennifer has hosted conversations with world-renowned leaders like Deepak Chopra and Bruce Lipton, and she brings such a grounded, heart-centered way of talking about healing, self-worth, and what it really takes to build meaningful connection. We talk about practical tools you can use right away, like inner child work, heart-brain coherence, and shifting the lens you see yourself and others through. And we come back to it again and again. One brave idea, letting go. I'll also share that after this podcast, I had the honor of spending an extra hour with Jennifer and going through one of her sessions. It was so life-changing. I'm forever grateful. So, all right, my friends, let's jump in with Jennifer Hill. I feel like I just want to dive in right now
Okay,
because there's
let's
so
go.
much we're already talking about that. This is the stuff that's so important to me that we get to share and we get to hear. And I'm so excited to meet you in real life and in just a week. And there's so many crazy connections, I need to say already, just from the little bit that I've been looking into. And I don't think there's any accidents how things come together. It's so much divine intervention. But I'll talk about this on here, like a little article that I read as well, too. So I just want to say right now, I am so excited to have Jennifer here to join me today on Inspiring Possibilities, the courage to jump in. We had the great pleasure of getting to speak at a big event in San Diego. And when you're listening to this, we will have already spoken at it, but we get to meet in real life as well there. And I want to say a huge shout out to my dear friend Stacy Lauren, who's putting on this huge event and bringing some of the most amazing people together. And I think very heart-centered entrepreneurs. And so I'm grateful to have you on here today, Jennifer. We get to learn way more about you because we've been in the same rooms together in Zoom. And now it's the first time we get to actually sit and have a visit and we get to hear your story because you're such an incredible heart-centered, massive leader. And I just want to say when Jennifer sent me her bio, which is very, very short, it barely touches on everything that she's done. Most importantly, and I'm covered in goosebumps, when she sent me her picture, like you can see right now, she radiates. There's no bio that can cover who you are. It's who you are being by your pure essence, and it just radiates through. So I'm excited to have some time with you, Jennifer. I'll share a little brief thing that she shared on her bio, but then we're going to really dive in and find out more behind Jennifer Hill. So I know you're an evolutionary leader, entrepreneur, author, speaker, podcaster, and TV host. Just a few things there. And she's hosted popular shows with none other than Dr. Deepak Chopra, Bruce Lipton, and many other leaders from around the world on her Regarding Consciousness and Super Connection podcast. So an amazing podcaster too. I can't wait to dive in to hear more about your podcast as well. And then after exiting her first company in 2018, she co-founded a new company in the techno space. So not only brilliant, beautiful energy and creating amazing things in this world. OptiMatch, is that correct? How I'm saying
Yeah,
it? OptiMatch.
yeah,
We
we'll
get to
shout
learn
out
about
the
we
match.
get to
Yeah.
learn about that. And so we're going to dive in. And I always say I love the pre-conversations even before we dive in because that's where the real connection and there's so many amazing things that overlap with us already. And I'm sure we're going to find out more. So welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. And yes, shout out to our beautiful mutual friend Stacy who brought us together.
Yeah, it's so good. So I'd love to hear more of your story, Jennifer, where you came from and what got to you to where you are now. And it's crazy because I just read an article about you in
Oh,
the Retreat magazine, and my mouth dropped because there's so many similarities that you and I have. Like,
what?
yes. through challenges in earlier life,
Mm.
feeling worthiness, body image, all this I've shared about that on my podcast of just being so hard on ourselves. So I don't, wherever you want to start, but I'd love to hear your story and share your story of what's brought you to the work that you're doing today.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. And yeah, shout out to Retreat Boss. I was so honored. It was so weird to be like, look, I'm in a magazine. Like, it's so funny. I'm like, I'm a grown-up girl now. I'm a real girl. To go back to your point, though, to get to the real girl part, there was a lot that goes on. It's kind of like, those beautiful inspirational posters or pictures you see where it shows an iceberg and you see only the tip top part of the iceberg and everything else below. That's how life feels is people say, oh, how are you happy and married and traveling the world and getting to work with great thought leaders? And it's a lot of intentionality. And it's funny because I was going to use the word work, and I really intentionally chose not to use that word because, as the founder and creator of Peter Pan said, it's only work if you'd rather be doing something else.
Oh,
So,
I
as
love that.
isn't that good? I think
Goosebumps. And the power of our words, right, are so big. It's play, if you can play.
exactly. Can we see our words as we say them?
Mhm.
And that's where, when I was younger, I had a very negative voice that was talking to me. And that voice said, you're nothing, you're worthless, you'll never fit in, you'll never be enough. And that's what led to years of bulimia and depression and suicidal attempts, among other things. And that's why my life's work right now, Michelle, is to help every human being have a deep, meaningful relationship with themselves, others, and their purpose, or what I call the golden triangle of connection. Because I find that as humans, we spend all of our life lifing, right? Family, kids, work, etc. Yet we spend so little time cultivating intimacy with ourselves.
Mm,
And
mm.
when we cultivate the sort of intimacy we would seek in any sort of relationship, friendship, romantic, business, we can only give that to somebody else if we've first given that to ourselves. So
Oh,
that's what then is this journey for 13 years.
so big. I just want to rewind a little bit because I'm curious too for from your experience, where do you think that came from?
I
Like
can
that
I
being so hard.
it's a multitude of things. So I can go spiritual, I can go literal, I can go figurative. So I can give you a little bit of all three. Literally, my mom and dad were both alcoholics when I was growing up with alcoholic grandparents. And so there was a lot of my dad was very verbally abusive to my mom, my sisters, and I. And actually, in my upcoming book, I share about the end of that story about how I
Mm.
had a story myself of how my dad was an a-hole my whole life. And when I shifted that story, it transmuted everything for us. So it started off with kind of almost hearing my dad's like very critical, judgmental voice in my head. Figuratively, it was I didn't have role models. I didn't really, books were my role models. I was a kid who have been a voracious reader since I was, I don't know, able to read. My mom said I was like 6 months old and was like flipping books upside down and trying to understand how to read them. So on the figurative side, I think that there was an aspect of me that didn't have role models or didn't have people that I looked up to. I lived in a very small town in North County, San Diego. And so you really had like my dog, the neighbors, my sister, my parents, and wide open spaces, which aside from characters in books really didn't give me much to work with. And
Mm.
then as I got into education and started going to school, as I got older, I was always in different classes and special classes. And so I didn't know how to people or how to be cool or how to be
Mm.
normal or more than anything, how to belong, which well, don't we all? I mean, it's a survival thing for millennia. If we don't have a tribe, if we don't have a group that we can call our own, you literally won't survive. And so I think that's why I tried to take my own life, is I thought, well, I'm not going to survive anyways. I may as well beat everybody else to the punch.
Oh my gosh. I've got goosebumps because that's so powerful. Like I think that's one of the most foundational things is this connecting, like real connection and feeling like we belong. And I think as kids, like one, we can be so tough on ourselves, and kids can be tough on each other. And it's because they're dealing with so much stuff that it's hard to even articulate or know where it's coming from. And as you well know, because of all the work that you've done, we develop so much of that up before, the age of 12, or really the first informative years, how we navigate things or how we interpret things to be what they are and our worthiness. And just that's why the work that you're doing is so important. And that's why I'm so thrilled to have you here, because it really does take courage to make those shifts. And so I'm also curious of what really started to shift, because I share so much, like even reaching the top pinnacle in the world, how hard I was on myself because I had this unknowing sense of unworthiness that I didn't even realize. And just a tiny bit of background, like my mom was on her own with four of us when I was like grade three. My birth father had left, and I think that he just could. Now my perspective, and when I read that your father was a firefighter, I went, "Oh my God, my birth father was a firefighter," and I have only just in the last, like literally very short period of time, have come from a place of understanding what it would have been like for him, because I'm doing
Mm,
a lot of work with first responders now, of just what they see, what they go through, and to be able to express, like, not want it, like the first time ever he's talked about those things in a way of my son-in-law to be as a paramedic and the things that he's seen. We never talked about that, to understand how he processes and have that kind of protection layer and come from their perspective. So I feel like that's been such a gift to kind of let go and come from, oh my God, everyone's doing the best that they can. There's that little kid in everyone that's working through something, either consciously, most likely unconscious, especially in the older generation, that have never had the tools to talk about what we're talking about right now to support. So when I read that about you, like literally last night, I went, oh my God, this, like we're so connected in so many ways. And we're not the only ones. Like that's why I want to dive in deep into these conversations, because how many people are holding unknown perspectives or hurt or whatever it is, that they don't even realize that it's still there somewhere, unless something comes and triggers it and we respond in a way that goes, what, where did that come from? I need to understand. And the more we want to understand and be aware, then we get to shift it. So it's super curious, like, one, amazing hearing some of your reflections on that. And then what was the shift that helped you start to change how you saw things? Way earlier than I did, by the way.
I have many wonderful teachers and people who have called me on my crap throughout the years, and it's helped me to become the person I am. In fact, for the upcoming book, I'm debating who I would dedicate the book to because so many people have been instrumental in my life and helping me get to where I am today. So, in answering to both parts of your question, going back to the firefighter thing and not knowing and not having the tools and resources, just like you said, my dad certainly didn't. And so I remember I was doing, and this is one of the stories that I end the book with, I talk about in my dad. So I had a story my whole life, Michelle, that my dad was a blank hole, right? That he was a hole. And
Mhm.
so this wasn't just my story, though. It was my mom, my sisters, my mom and my dad were still married, my grandparents. It was a family consensus. Dad's difficult, dad's mean, dad's angry, dad's a blank hole, right? And so this all happens. And one day I'm in this personal development class and a light bulb goes on. It's like, oh my goodness, what if dad is only occurring as an a-hole because I'm looking for him to be one, because that's the
Mm.
story and the narrative. And I kid you not, Michelle, I have this epiphany. I race down to San Diego from LA. I go to my dad where he starts drinking in his garage every day at 2 when he's not at the fire department. It's 11 a.m. And I said, Dad, can I just level with you? Can I talk to you for a second, father to daughter? And he's like, yeah, Jens, what's up? And I said, Dad, I am so sorry that I have treated you like an asshole for most of my adult life. And I'm not committed to that story anymore. I'd love to create a new story with you where I find out who you really are, what matters to you as a human. Can we write a new story together? And my dad just opened up, Michelle. He says, Jenny, you don't know what it was like. He said, your grandfather and I were in a decades-long pissing match over who was going to be your true father figure. He was the first one to hold me, my grandfather was. And my dad didn't even get to hold me, and I was the firstborn daughter. And my dad said my grandfather's the one who introduced him to vodka, and that was his poison of choice. My dad's like, Jenny, I pulled decapitated children out of burning cars, horrors that most people could never imagine. And in that moment, something profound shifted, Michelle. I could see the lens in the same way you pick up your Instagram or TikTok, whatever it is, right? And you place a lens or a filter on it, right? You might want sepia, you might want black and white, whatever it is. We don't realize that we're unconsciously applying lenses to
Mm.
everything and everyone in my life. So, step one is I saw I had this lens in my dad and that it wasn't the lens I was committed to. Step two is I wanted to see what's a lens that I could see my dad through that would give us both the spaciousness to have a father daughter relationship that wasn't impeded by these old judgments and ways of thinking. And I chose that to be unconditional love. And up until my dad died a year ago, we had the most beautiful relationship. He never stopped drinking. That didn't change. But we went on to build two schools together in Senegal and Nepal. And during those weeks, he couldn't drink. Like legally, you weren't allowed to drink in the village, nor did they have alcohol there. And both times, for a week at a time, my dad would give up drinking, even though it was so challenging for him. And we had the most profound relationship because of that. And I saw him through unconditional love. So, step one, notice your filter, notice your lens you see yourself and others through. Step two, choose the filter, choose the lens. And step three, work towards a no filter world. So, that's my goal for everybody is hashtag no filters.
Oh my God, I love that so much, Jen. That's so powerful. And if we pause for a moment to just ask the question, what lens am I looking at? Because as we know, like what we focus on, we get more of. Like
Mm.
we're going to find it. Like you said, if I'm looking for this, I'm going to find it. If we're looking for the good. And it's so easy to come into judgment and look through that lens. So I love that so much with all the work that you're doing right now. And I have shifted my lens over and over, and we continue to do it. It's not like we get the lens right away. Like it's like there can be influences that come in and we can pause and just say, okay, how am I seeing this? And what am I choosing? How am I choosing to see this? So what a gift. I just I'm so grateful for you and for the lessons that you're teaching around this because it's so powerful. Even I just came back from seeing my birth dad and he's turning 89 this year. So it's precious, priceless time and to see things through a different lens, have that time is such a gift. And I was very fortunate because my mom had remarried and I had the most amazing father raising us. I really had two dads, but one I wasn't very close to my birth dad, so I want to be. And I now no longer have both my parents here, but they were the epitome of like ultimate connection and partnership and love and what a great role models to have around that and their challenges too. So it's like again seeing through the lens of everyone that we see, right, having this consciousness of being able to see. I think I read somewhere one of your things is like what is it exactly they say, like seeing the light or the is
Oh, the spark
light,
of light.
the spark of light that's in each person. Like everyone that we come into contact, there's a little person inside of them. There's that kid. I don't know if you ever saw the picture. There's a statue and
Yep.
it's like sitting back to back and it's kind of see-through iron. In the middle, there's two little kids reaching out to hug
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Oh,
Beautiful. I think it's a Burning Man statue. And it's funny, another podcast I was on lately, somebody brought that up. So I'm glad that I inspire that in people.
yes, so good because that's in everyone and everyone's trying their best, right? So, and it's not until and what when we shift that allows shifts to happen, right? So good.
Absolutely. Shift happens. I love that. Shift
Shift,
happens.
shift happens. Shift happens. We'll talk about that a little bit more because a lot of it too of letting go is having a lighter perspective and a lot more fun. Like, how do we lighten it? So, share a little bit more, Jen, of the work that you're doing now and where your passion and time and commitment, because you have your tell us more about OptiMatch and how that came to be. And what was your first company that you started in 2018? And I think I even skipped a question even earlier of rewinding a little bit more of that shift. When was that big shift that got you onto the new path you shared about with your dad? That was the first real shift, seeing that. And then where did you see that? play out and how has it led? That's a lot of questions stacked right now.
I tracked them
Let's
all. It's
break
all
apart.
good.
So good.
I love a good challenge. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good, Michelle. Thank you. So, with my dad, it was just applying the filter of seeing him through a lens of unconditional love. And often, even when he would drink, before I used to recoil in fear or anger or frustration. And instead, I chose to just respond with unconditional love because people can feel it, even if we don't say a word. If we can extend compassion, but we can't give compassion to anybody else until we can give it to ourselves. And you know what? I just realized at this moment, Michelle, that I never put two and two together. When I had that conversation with my dad, I was 25. And up till that point in my life, from 15 to 25, I had thrown up every day of my life, 20 plus times a day. I was bulimic. I hated myself, even though I had already begun kind of doing a little bit of self and personal development work when I was around 23, 24. And I never realized how closely those two things coincided, where one day in a personal development class, I created a possibility of being disciplined, and whoosh, I just stopped throwing up. And now I'm very fortunate to have not been bulimic for the last 20 years, almost as long. We had double as long as I was bulimic. And so I just find it fascinating as I reflect with you right now how my ability to heal myself gave me the capacity to heal my dad. And I wonder if those two things were intertwined.
You wonder, I just got total goosebumps and I totally believe 100% true. And I want to thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing because it took me a long time to share the challenges that I went through as well. And that's why I feel so connected to you in so many ways, I think, because I had an eating disorder, well, probably the last 5 years of my swimming career and 10 years after.
Mm,
I was so hard on myself and didn't realize that worthiness part was so deep. And yes, it triggered by a coach saying you're getting fat and how do you
mm,
change from training 6 to 8 hours a day. But it triggered something that was way deeper than that. And it wasn't until literally I remember standing in the shower and just seeing this big stop sign, just stop. And it
mm,
was like almost instant. I know it's not that easy for everyone, but it's time that emotional part of it. I didn't want my kids to go through what I was going through at 3 daughters. Like I just did
mm,
not want them to have that. And that was the beginning of the healing. And the first time I ever shared that was speaking at a huge women's conference because everyone, how do you become the best in the world? And I'm like, we can become the best and it doesn't have to cost us that much. Like when we're to your point, when we feel worthy and love ourselves first in order to have the capacity to take on the greatness that we have, right?
mm,
And I want to bring in our pre-conversation that we had a little bit before we dove into the actual podcast part was we were talking about the pride part,
mm.
like the fine line. Do you want to share that story a little bit? Because then I have something that really hit so hard when you shared that.
Yeah, of course. So we were talking about a way that you can rewire and reprogram your brain. So I study many different disciplines, and one of them is Psyche, brain gym. You can call it many things. You basically cross one hand over the other and one ankle over the other. And long story short, you can reprogram your brain. Voila. Don't we all want that, right?
Yeah.
The question is, what do we program it with? So
Yeah.
I love Louise Hay's work. If you're not familiar with her work, she was a pioneer for women, a pioneer in well-being and in how we see ourselves in the world. And so she has a book called You Can Heal Your Life, where it has a list of every potential symptom you could ever have, from a common cold to the flu to cancer to knee pain, in my case, right? And so I was sharing with Michelle before we began how myself, my mom, my grandmother, right knee pain. It's like always, we've always had right knee pain. Thank you for that little gift, right?
Mhm.
But then lo and behold, a couple years ago, I discovered this healing technique and Louise Hay's work. And if you look at Louise Hay's little sheet of You Can Heal Your Life, symptomology wise, the knee is representative of pride. So every time I was sharing with Michelle as I was walking to my Pilates class today, my right knee started to hurt. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. I have like a private Pilates session today. This is so annoying. But I did what I do every time, which is I put myself in this position. I got to my Pilates teacher and I put myself in this position. I said, I just need a minute. And so I then put myself in this position, said, I'm humble and modest. I'm humble and modest. I'm humble and modest. And you just repeat it like an affirmation. Now, I will warn you if you do this at home, everybody has a different response. When I work with clients on this, some people cry, some people hear or see things, but eventually you release that old limiting belief or way of being, and then you shift it. So we were talking earlier, Michelle, about pride versus proud. And you
Hmm.
know, it's a very simple, very fine line. But can you be proud without having pride? Like, I can be proud of an accomplishment. I can be proud of a painting I did or an article I wrote. But if I'm prideful, I think proud is a momentary thing and prideful is a way of being. I don't know, that's just how it occurs for me when I share it.
Interesting, because we were talking about it's so important to be able to receive and to be proud of, because not letting that in blocks abundance in ways, right? So being like having and interesting with the words too of understanding, being proud. And I remember back to my swimming days when we used to have to walk on deck, and I had a hard time with that because it sounds funny, but I was not a competitive person. That sounds so weird, but it was just I always wanted to do better than I did before. And so there was a shift that happened to me. It was like I don't want to walk out feeling like I'm cocky or better than somebody else.
Mm,
It's like walk out with confidence. There's a difference between those two,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And like being proud of allowing going, my gosh, like for your example, like you're doing amazing things. Like it doesn't come from a place of, oh, I think so much better than everybody else in a bag of chips or whatever, right? But it's just like really um, acknowledging those gifts without it going to potentially ego or being better than someone else in a way of an ego place, right?
Exactly, less than, more than. I think that's
Yeah.
where if you're being, if you're, being prideful all the time, it's like an ongoing state. Like we all have a choice ontologically of who we get to be in the world. Do we want to be inspired, giving, radiant, thoughtful, kind? But if we're being prideful, we can be proud in the moment, but if we identify as that, I think it's the
Mhm.
identifying as it. My
Yeah.
mom will tell you, she's like, I tell everybody I have ego the size of Texas, which is hilarious because she gets, and my mom is ridiculously intelligent. Like why when she passed her nursing exam for oncology nursing, she was the top of her class in the entire country. So she has right to do it, but if you
Yeah.
come from that place, it creates separation between you and others. And I saw that in school is I had a very wonderful way that my brain processed, but it caused me to feel alienated from the other kids because I thought everybody else was just being obstinate and not working harder, faster, smarter. And it
Mm,
took my business coach, who was my prior co-founder who recently passed away, Julian changed my life because he helped me to understand people aren't being obstinate jerks. They're just designed differently. And this is why
mm,
I've made it my life's work now to have 183 tools to understand myself and the world and one another, and to better engage, whether I'm working with coaching clients or people in the group I run. It's all about having compassion for the beautiful myriad of ways. And it doesn't mean we all have to be the same or think the same.
yeah, totally. So good. And I just saw an article with your two belt on
Ah,
LinkedIn, like the graphic that have your two belt of what I want to jump into that a little bit. Just one more thing on the pride and proud part, because I think sometimes we forget or underestimate how much we've grown or how far we've come. And we can get into those places of easily being feeling like the imposter syndrome are not good enough. And that is also this is not a right word to use, but like epidemic in a way of people feeling like it blew me away when I found out 80% of high achievers, especially women, don't feel worthy or good enough. So how do
mm,
we shift that? And I think part of it is acknowledging the accomplishments, not in a way of egotistically, but going, oh yeah, I got through that. I did this. And I call it like your badass moments. Like think about when it was like 10, like write down 10 times, like 10 different areas of your life where it's like, oh my God, I was a badass. Like I pulled out all these, like I've got this capacity, I've got this ability. Again, not coming from so much this ego part, but understanding what we're capable of and celebrating that because it's also so easy to not celebrate the amazing things that we've done. And those little celebrations actually help catapult us to build our confidence to move forward into whatever is next. It builds that kind of stacks our resiliency and stacks our ability, right? So, yeah, I just think that Yeah, the badassery of which I'm going to touch on. You have a like a very cool prayer around that somehow. We're going to talk about that. I want to wrap with that too, but not quite yet. So speak to me, share with me, because you said 183,
Cool.
180 some tools, and I saw the graphics of the tool belt. Touch on that a little bit of the different tools and maybe some of your favorite ones that help shift into and why these tools are so important to have in the toolbox.
Yeah, I say to everybody, we think of Batman as being a superhero, right?
Mhm.
But he's not superhuman. He's just human. But what
Mhm.
makes him a superhero is his super tool belt. So when I work with clients or when I'm supporting friends or loved ones, I encourage them to cultivate a super tool belt. So that's why I pick and choose from all of these different tools that I use. And one of them, for example, is inner child work. As you were just sharing about all of this and women not feeling worthy, and so many of us, one of my favorite techniques is every morning after I finish my meditation, I wrap my arms around myself. I talk to my little girl inside of me. I love teaching people and taking people through inner child work. And then I'll hold her. And every day I say, I love you. You are loved. You are cherished. You are beautiful. You're extraordinary. You're accepted. And it does something. My mom, it was so cute, actually sent me an article about, she's like, honey, you should hug yourself 20 seconds a day. I was like, Mom, I've been doing that for years. And I ask her what she needs. And I'll say, my love, what do you need today? Or what are you feeling? And so, long story short, Michelle, I wrote an article about this probably earlier this year called The Inner Child in the Boardroom. What most of us aren't aware of is that they're not 55 or 40-year-old or 33-year-olds showing up in boardrooms or meetings or pitches. It's upset 3 and 4-year-olds. That's who's showing up on your first date, the insecure, the scared, you know, I want attention, I want this. And so when we give ourselves the love we need, we become unstoppable.
Yeah, so good. I love it. So good. That's one super powerful tool right there.
That's one tool.
Yes.
Heart-focused breathing by HeartMath is another one of my tools. So HeartMath has been studying heart-brain coherence for about 40, 50 years now. Many people are aware of it through Joe Dispenza's work. Joe Dispenza, a lot of his work is predicated on HeartMath's work. And HeartMath studies heart-brain coherence. Most of us aren't aware that our brain sends more information to our heart brain sends more information to our head brain than vice versa. So
Mm,
if we can get our heart into a state of coherence by breathing slowly and deeply in and out through the center of our heart or chest, we can actually regulate our nervous system. It improves our HRV and regains access to our prefrontal cortex rather than the amygdala running the show.
mm. And the amygdala is more the fight and flight and
Exactly.
reactive. So, and it's so funny because people say breathing, like, oh my God, like my sport was not breathing. I spent years holding my breath and just realizing literally how important breath is and how healing breath is. And when we're stressed and in that amygdala place, it's like we're probably not breathing. And then that elevates whatever level of stress
Yeah.
in that moment. So, so good. Okay, that's only two of the 187. Not
All
only
right.
those are power packed ones right there.
I'll
Another
give you
favorite one.
I'll give you another favorite one. God, there are so many here. One of my other favorite ones is Sedona method. Do you know that one?
I don't know for sure.
Hale Dwoskin. So I'll give you a bonus of two because these are the two ones that when I wake up in the middle of the night, my opportunity for growth is my brain works so fast that when
Mm,
I go to bed, oftentimes I would struggle to fall asleep, or God forbid, I would wake up when I was running my last business at 3 a.m. By the way, it was a recruiting company. You had asked me that earlier, and I failed
yeah.
to mention the company I sold in 2018 was recruiting. And so, in terms of that, with Hale Dwoskin's Sedona method or paradoxical thinking from Viktor Frankl, what you do is if you wake up in the middle of the night and say you're resisting it, you're like, I just need to go back to sleep. I have meetings. Hale Dwoskin's method, Sedona method, says, you say, could I welcome being awake right now? No. Could I allow being awake right now? No. Could I release being awake right now? No. Would I release being awake right now? No. When will I release it? So I take myself through this, or I'll take clients through it when they're feeling stuck on something, when you just get entrenched on the hamster wheel of an idea, right? Like I need to go back to sleep or whatever it is. So normally after about 5, 10 times, I can put myself back to sleep with that or with paradoxical thinking. So Viktor Frankl is the author of Man's Search for Meaning, who
Mm,
survived Auschwitz. And when he left Auschwitz, he wound up creating something called logotherapy about existentialism. And when he did this, one of the things he came up with is he had, say, he had a client, I think he gives this example in the book, and this client was embarrassed of sweating. And so he said, okay, great. Next time, you go out in public, instead of saying, I don't want to sweat, I want you to tell yourself internally, I hope I sweat so much a river flows behind me. I hope I sweat so much people have to follow me around with a mop and bucket. And literally his client would poof, no longer sweat in public. So I do
Wow.
the same thing. And it's funny because if I say this, I'll start to feel a little bit sleepy. I hope I never sleep again. I hope I stay awake for the next 24 hours. I hope I stay awake for the next 3 weeks. And I literally start to go, okay, good night.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's crazy. That's really like that's reverse psychology. Like
Yeah, and you're
it's
dropping
interesting,
resistance.
right? And it's interesting because what we say we attract,
Yep.
but it doesn't hear the don't.
Yeah.
Like it negates the don't,
Yeah.
right? It's like when we like taking that word out of it's like using the word but, like you negate everything you've said before, right? So it's like so powerful. It's like reverse psychology. Like, I'll show you, like, right?
Yeah. And I never would have thought it worked. A friend of mine, I was actually thinking she'd be a great guest for the show, Melissa Bernstein. She was one of the ones who turned me on to Viktor Frankl's work.
Wow, very cool. So good. I know we could like dive into a lot more and I will have all where people can connect with you too, Jen, at the end. But share where you are now. Like tell me, so you said you had a staffing company? Whoa, that would have been like well, I could see why you'd be up at 2 or 3 in the morning. Like a lot to kind of manage there. What took you out of that into what you're doing now?
That was a series of beautiful serendipities. So I built that company, sold it in 2018. In late 2019, I was supposed to continue running it for a few years, but through a series of literal serendipities, on November 1st of 2019, I was able to move into a consulting role. Our team was so successful, they didn't need me. They took it all over. Our team was incredible. I was like, I need more money up front. They're like, nah, it's okay. And I was just like, you guys are going to be calling me. They didn't call me at all. They had it all figured out. They had everything. And I was like, I don't know if I
By the
should feel
way,
good or bad about that.
well, by the way, that is amazing leadership. Like, you get to take that right now because you created the leadership that was capable. It's like when your kids grow up and they don't call you anymore. It's like, okay, you did a good job. They call to
Yeah.
say hi every once in a while, but that's amazing leadership, of which we can do a whole other podcast about that. Like that is incredible. So,
Yeah, and that's what I work with executives on now. So then what was crazy was November 1st of 2019, I moved into this consulting role with the company I'd sold. That same day, I got offered a TV hosting gig on Awake TV, which was a stretch. It was like a brand new thing, and it was like all consciousness and thought leaders. That same day, I got offered to co-moderate a panel with Deepak Chopra and Don Hoffman. I had never read a single book of Deepak's in my life.
wow.
So here we are, and fast forward, it's end of 2019. I remember I was in Laguna Beach in California, and I had this brilliant idea. Now, I've been TV hosting in quotes, right? Like it wasn't quite really there yet. I've been TV hosting on this new network for a little while, and I know I have like a week and a half away, this interview with Deepak and Don as part of my alma mater that I'm moderating with the dean. And so I call the people who are putting on, I was like, tell Deepak Chopra and Don Hoffman I saved them a spot on my new TV show. And it was the furthest stretch of the imagination. And I always remember exactly where I was when Carolyn, Deepak's longtime right-hand executive director, calls me. I'm like in Napa with girlfriends on a wine trip. It's a number I don't know. I was like, oh shit, I think this is Deepak's people. And they call, they're like, yes, Deepak would like to meet you in studio. He'd like this sort of car to pick him up. I was like, I don't have a studio. I literally didn't even have a studio. I had to call my friend David Guillaume at the Kabbalah Center and be like, David, can you hook me up? I know you sometimes do recordings there. And so that's when my life did a 180. I even got to work a red carpet after the Oscars for like this thing. I was like, I don't even watch TV or know. And I'm like interviewing these celebrities. And I'm like, they're talking about shows. I had no idea what any of the shows were. So
Oh my
that
God.
kind of is how I got into the TV thing. And simultaneously out of that, because Deepak and I and a bunch of others wound up doing a 100,000 person meditation. Actually, it was like, I don't know, 150, something like that,
Wow.
right before COVID. And I was invited on a radio show. That radio show led to a retreat online during COVID where I met my original co-founder for OptiMatch or App, which is
Wow.
how I got into this. So it was all beautiful and serendipitous of how it all came together.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And I want to highlight something magnificent here. Like a lot of magnificent is the fact that, like, I'm covered in goosebumps again. It gets to be messy. Like we think we have to have it all planned out. When we can let go and magic happens, it's not about the perfect this or the perfect that, but willing to say yes and figure it out. And you're going to be, we're way more resourceful than we think. Like, look at the magic that happened from you saying, like, ballsy sending it out there, putting that intention out there. And yes, I'll save you a spot. And now I'm going to find the studio. That's like talk about getting the plane flying, like getting your wings while you're going in the air. But that's where the magic happens. Like being totally present in creating in a way bigger way. That's when magic happens when a vision's bigger than us. Honestly, I believe that. So I love it.
It was serendipitous, and that one episode, because of COVID and everything else, led to Don Hoffman and Deepak and I doing a 17-part series together called Conversations at the Intersection of Cutting Edge Science and Spirituality, and they have a new book coming out next year, which is fun.
Oh my God. Okay, we're going to have that in the link for anybody to check that out as well. So tell me a little bit more about OptiMatch, and then we'll. Oh my gosh, we could have like a 2-hour podcast today, I'm sure.
I totally get, yeah. So OptiMatch was birthed, my co-founder Julian Adler, who was incredible. He was my mentor. He was the one who helped me stop being such a jerk to myself and others. He
Mm,
recently passed away about 2 months ago, very unexpectedly, and it was the craziest serendipity of events because so Moon Cho, who I had met because of that retreat, because of the Deepak thing, etc. She and I meet in the end of 2020 now. It's like a year after I'm now not working corporate. I'm just consulting and doing the TV thing. And Moon's like, hey, I need an advisor. And I'm like, okay, I'll advise. I'm never going to build another company again. That's what I told myself at first. I said, never will I ever build another company again. And so Moon starts off having me advise her. And then she actually says, oh, you know what? I need a co-founder. I'm like, listen, the only way I'll build another company is if Julian helps. So Julian, we bring him on as an advisor. And Julian says one day in a call, we're looking at coming up with a way to match therapists and coaches and healers with people who they work with. And Julian looks at me and we're talking about human design and all these wonderful tools. He's like, Jen, why don't we just create an algorithm based on your intuition? I was like, what? But it made sense because here I'd placed tens of thousands of people in my 20-year recruiting career. And I did have and do have a sixth sense. Most
mhm.
anybody I meet with, Michelle, when I meet people, I've been writing down names as we've been speaking because as people share their hopes, wishes, and dreams, names just get dropped into my awareness of who connects with who and why people would feel aligned with each other. So long story short, we wound up developing OptiMatch. We start off testing it with patients and therapists. We got to a couple thousand people initially from it, and then we started growing it to be able to use it in businesses. So right now we're in a very unique place because Julian just died, so we're figuring out like, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep building it? Are we going to sell it? I would say that one of the things that all of our advisors and my mentors and everybody I've talked to said, please do this in dating. So if Bumble, if you're listening, Meta, if you want to have a conversation, you can reach out because we do seem to have pretty good efficacy in the dating world. We can basically predict who you're going to feel psychologically safe with, become friends with, fall in love with. We have a
Wow.
pretty good algorithm for that.
Oh, very cool. So we'll have a link somewhere where people can check more into that. Wow, like okay, like I said, this literally could be 2 hours of a book. I can't wait to meet you in real life and have more time. Um, eh, okay, what is something that you want everyone to walk away with today? And I'll have all your contact information. I want to know about your book that's coming out. Super excited about that. What is the biggest thing you want people to know?
Yeah, so with regards to what I want people to know, let me just drop in here. Hmm. What I'm hearing is, and I talk to my higher self, your higher self, the audience's higher self. I'm just constantly kind of dropping in to see what's most valuable for whoever's listening right now. What I'm being told to share is to let go. That one of the most profound things happened for me this year. I had a very deep, profound meditative experience. And when I reached kind of the height of consciousness and dropped out of space and time and understood the meaning of the universe, what was told to me to share with others is that life is like an etch-a-sketch board. Imagine you can draw anything on it. It's like a little children's toy, right? You can draw your hopes and wishes and dreams. And then one day it maybe no longer serves you, and you can just shake it and you can draw something new. So I invite all of us as we go into this year, as we go into our visions, our dreams, our hopes, our wishes for ourselves, our family, our loved ones, our businesses. I invite you to ask what no longer serves you. What is something that maybe was a version of you a year ago, 5 years ago? And what do you need to let go of so you can say yes to what's been waiting for you all along?
Absolutely beautiful. Goosebumps again. So good. Love it so much. You are the epitome of inspiring possibilities and the courage to jump in and the ripple effect that comes from that letting go. And I say, like, you can cannonball and it has a way bigger splash when you're not worried about being messy and having fun with it. So it's so big. What is the name of your book that's coming out and when is it coming out, Jennifer?
It's called The Recovering Asshole, and it's coming out late next year. And that's why you'll find the antiassholeprayer.com. And you can, if you go to the antiassholeprayer.com and sign up, you'll get access to newsletters, and you'll also get my 21 favorite morning mantras, including my favorite anti-asshole prayer. So
Oh my God, because you share, we were on a Zoom together leading up for this big billion-dollar impact marketplace event that we're doing. Like that's going to change the way we do business, the way that we support charities and organizations that are doing good in the world and elevating entrepreneurs at the same time. It's just such a beautiful, it's going to be, and it is going to be an absolute beautiful movement and change. And you shared that anti-asshole prayer, which I was giggling so hard and going, oh my God, that's so powerful. So now
I say it
everybody's
every
going
day.
to for
Like
sure. Yeah.
I literally have a New Year's Eve party happening in 2 days, and you can bet your bottom dollar. I say it about the group I run for the 300 entrepreneurs. I say it about any parties I throw. I say, I'll leave you to find out what the anti-asshole prayer is.
I know. See, curiosity. Everybody gets to dive in. I'm going to have the link for that there for sure. So, so exciting. So, one of the questions I love to always ask is, what would your 12-year-old self tell you today?
Hmm. Oh, my 12-year-old self says, I wish people liked me more. Yeah, I
Wow.
was bullied a lot as a kid, so I love you, sweetheart. Thank you for sharing that.
So good. Like can relate. Like we want that so bad. Your 12-year-old self tell you today, and what would you tell your 12-year-old self?
Hmm. You don't have to do anything to be loved. You are loved because you are loved and because you are you, and there's no one you need to impress.
Oh wow, just to embrace that.
Hmm.
You, my friend, are amazing. I'm
Thank you, so are
so,
you.
so grateful for our time. I'm excited to spend more time with you. And who knows what magic comes from connecting, letting go, being courageous, saying yes, and just going for it. And coming from this heart place. I have my desk is covered with hearts, so I'm sending you this one right now.
Oh, I love it.
A big heart. And again, I'll have all the links. I look forward to seeing you soon. Any last things you want to share?
I'm going to leave you with a quote from Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God. Let this be your greatest task. Let this be your greatest joy, to give people back to themselves, even in the darkest hour, and especially in that hour.
So beautiful. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
You are truly a gift. Jennifer, thank you for this conversation and for the reminder that we can notice the lens we're using and choose a new one. If something in this episode hit you in the heart, do me a favor and share it with a friend who needs a little more connection, calm, and courage right now. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow the podcast so that you don't miss what's coming next. You can find Jennifer's link, including the anti-asshole prayer and the OptiMatch in the show notes. And if you want to stay connected with me, come and say hi at michellecameroncoulter.com. And remember, you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. Until next time, keep breathing, keep noticing, and keep jumping in because you never know what's possible until you do.